Welcome to Garden Grounds. We'll get started in about 30 seconds. And if someone could just let me know you can hear my voice, see my garden, that would be very helpful. Thank you. All right, we should be good to go on this very hot day. I know that the whole United States is in a heat wave. Just came in, watering the garden every day. Today's light subject for today's mentoring Q&A is really ripping out beat up plants and direct seeding, which I will talk about as we go, through this Q&A. I do the public Q&A every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. It's called Garden Grounds. Feel free to put any question out that you would like. Just put question in front of it. It gets really busy on these public Q&As, so I need to see question in the chat so I can pull the question out. If I miss your question, please put it out there again. And one of the things that happen as we're approaching July, high heat's coming to our gardens in a lot of areas, we tend to want to save every plant. And when a plant gets beat up, maybe you can save it, but it's not going to really produce. It's going to be kind of labor of love of trying to keep the plant alive, which I do understand. But if you can just rip it out and put in some new seeds. Cucumbers, zucchini, squash, if they're beat up, they're not really producing. I have a plant that's yellowing right now. It's been fed, it's been taken care of. I'm going to be ripping it out. I'll be doing a video on it. As soon as I rip out that squash plant, 2 more seeds are going to go in. And what you can continue to do is direct seed the summer crops throughout really June, July, and even August, and you'll continue to get production. They grow extremely fast when the soil temperature is warm like it is now. So the harvest really from germination to harvesting for like your squash can be in as little as 35 days. All right, let's start with some questions and we'll talk about ripping out plants and direct seeding over the next 30 to 45 minutes. Can you use wood chips in a vegetable garden? You can. So the thing with wood chips is that they're not composted down, they haven't decayed, they're not broken down. So if you add wood in a lot of the products you buy at the big box stores, garbage, just shredded hardwood through there. So when you mix hardwood into the top 2-4 inches, 10-15 centimeters of your soil, microbes start trying to break down the wood. And the microbes want nitrogen, so it takes nitrogen from the ground, challenges your plant. So when you mix a lot of wood into that top several inches of your ground, it challenges your plant. So if you have if you have stunted plants, yellowing plants, and you just filled your beds or you mixed in, some topsoil that was just basically garbage, for lack of a better word, it could be that you have too much wood in there. So you don't want to mix the wood chips through the soil, but on top as a mulch, perfectly fine. The root systems will grow in the earth. The wood above the soil doesn't compete for nitrogen with your plants. If you're going to plant, move the wood chips to the side, turn your soil, amend your soil, whatever, and then put the wood chips back. Just don't mix the wood chips through. Those are like for bigger wood chips, specifically in the question. I use shredded hardwood, which I use as a mulch. It's shredded. It's more like hair and just ground up nice and fine. When that is on the soil, it decays pretty quickly. So in a year or two, it gets incorporated into my soil and there's no worries. But that's the difference between shredded hardwood and wood chips. Just, if in doubt, don't mix it through your soil. Question, are the little white eggs on the lower stems of bean plants aphids? If so, what dilution ratio of liquid soap to remove them? I don't know if they're aphids. Aphids are small anyway, and I think it's really hard to see those eggs. Those eggs could be good. They could be bad. It's really hard to tell what the eggs are. even if you do a Google lens search or something like that. But you do want to try and learn what the insects and eggs are on your plants because they could be beneficial. However, if you're spraying for aphids or soft-bodied insects, I usually use, I have different recipes, but like a tablespoon of soap in a gallon of water, or 3.7 liters of water, 1 tablespoon. That is the mild soap, like the Castile types. If you're using detergents and harsher types of soap, you want to start with less. Anyway, that's great for the soft-bodied insects. How much soap will clean off or damage eggs or kill them off? I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, so I don't know for sure. A few videos ago, you showed some beets with tan leaves. You said that was leaf miners. How do you treat that? So, like, if you have a beet leaf and you see these like squiggly lines, like someone took a magic marker and just went all over it, it's not black, but it's just these weird squiggly lines. That's usually leaf miners. And I treat that with insect dust. You can use organic type spinosad or the synthetic chemicals made by people. 7, they both work. It's up to you what you want to use. But I did find that the dusts work better than sprays. And then you really kill off the leaf miners and they're gone for a while. So you don't really have to necessarily dust every week, but keep an eye on them. Beet leaves, just on a side note, can take a lot of damage. I get a fungus on them, I get leaf miners, and the beets still grow and they still do really well. The leaves can get really beat up. Just keep them watered well and they should do okay. So again, if you're just signing in, this is the public Q&A. You might see some people with circles and stars next to their name. They are perk members. I do the same format about 5 times a month for an hour each time. You can join my perk membership for $3.99 a month, and I'll do 5 of these. It's a nice group. It's smaller. Stay on for an hour, and we help each other out. If you're interested in that, just look for the join button on my YouTube channel. And then there's a post tab also on my YouTube channel. I update the post there with when the perk events are so that you have a schedule each month. And then if you have notifications on, you should get a notification from YouTube of the upcoming events. Can you please share advice on harvesting garlic? Specifically, how many days are needed? Let me read it again. Specifically, how many days are needed before harvest? Plants look ready, but there's showers called for each day. So garlic is nice and green, and then it starts to get yellow and kind of like flop over a little bit. When it's mostly turned yellow and the green is really gone, and you can tell it just doesn't look like a healthy plant, it's really ready to be harvested. You want to cure your garlic, so I usually pull it out of the ground and I let it sit there for a day or two, without the rain. Even if it gets rained on, it'll be okay. Let it dry, and then I hang it somewhere for a couple of weeks. Like, I don't cure mine perfectly, but that helps the bulb dry, and then you can store it a little bit better. But you're really just looking for it to be mostly yellow and kind of fading out, and you can harvest it. Check it out too. Pull out a clove, see how it looks. Once the plant is no longer really green and it's fading, the bulb's not going to get that much bigger. So it's really up to you. Question. A few videos ago, you showed some beets. Oh, we got that question already. I don't remember if spinosad works on Japanese beetles. I don't really have Japanese beetles that much anymore for whatever reason. They're just not around. I think part of the reason is I moved here. I'm on my 6th growing season on my new property, and I let the ground naturalize over instead of just grass. And when you just have grass, not much lives in there. Japanese beetles love going into grass. They do their thing. The grubs are there. You get tons of Japanese beetles. With a lawn that is really naturalized, I get, I have all kinds. I have grass in there, definitely kinds of weeds, but I get beautiful white flowers, green flowers, clover, all that kind of stuff. I just don't have a lot of Japanese beetles. And I think it's because I created kind of a biosphere of good microbes that, manage the grubs of the Japanese beetle, and the balance is pretty good. Spinosad should work. 7-Dust definitely does work. And the best way to do it is to grab a few, put them in a jar, sprinkle in some spinosad, see if it kills them off. And that's how you can really test out different dust sometimes on insects. And remember, please put question out in front. Question, can you please share advice? Oh, we did that one too. Okay. Do you recommend plucking first round of baby peppers on plants? My plants are still semi-small. They've only been in the ground for 3 weeks. Yeah, so I was going to say, if the plants are small, remove the peppers. With the heat coming, they'll expand and they'll grow. But if you have smaller plants and they're producing flowers and fruit, they're going to put a lot of energy into that, and it's going to keep the plants smaller. Remove the fruit, hit them with a nice water-soluble fertilizer of your choice, give them that nitrogen, let them grow and take off. And it will happen very quickly. I mean, you'll see quick growth over a 2-week period, and then you can kind of let them go. I have never used JMS, although I hear a lot about it. Thank you, Karen, for the perk membership boost there. And then I usually talk about organic, people-made chemicals. Remember, everything is a chemical. And it's really up to you. Like, you don't want to douse your garden 24/7 in synthetic pesticides. It's not good practice. Not good practice to use organic pesticides 24/7. You kill out too much. Learning what each product does and how to use it in a targeted way is what I usually recommend. So I do offer up, both sides of the coin. Same thing with fertilizer. The synthetic fertilizers, they're okay to use here and there. I use them at planting sometimes, use them during emergencies. They are a great supplement to a garden that is well composted with lots of organic matter. You just don't want to abuse them. So part of my teachings is really to let people know what each product does, and then talk about how you would use it in your garden if you choose to do that. So today's late subject, again, for people just coming in, is really about getting over the difficulty I know I have, and I think most gardeners have, of ripping out problematic plants. So you may have beat up squash, cucumbers, zucchini, winter squash, spaghetti squash, acorn squash, butternut squash. If they don't look good and you've tried to, have them survive, just pull them out. I know it's hard to do. Put in new seeds. The summer crops, cukes, zook, squash, winter squash, grow extremely quickly, and you're not going to really lose that much time. You're much better off planting in new seeds now and ripping out those plants. Now it's a little bit early, but in about 2-3 weeks, some of your cucumber plants could be producing. They could be beat up. Maybe you're getting, cucumber beetles come in or something. Now is a great time to put in some additional seeds, knowing that each year your cucumbers get beat up mid-July. So you would rip those out. The new cucumbers have been in the ground for 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to take over. And that is a great way to continue getting nice harvests out of your garden. So rather than trying to keep sickly plants alive and going, which aren't going to really want to produce for you, rip them out, put in new seeds, or have seeds already growing, anticipating the need to remove beat up plants. Let me just check to see where we are. My young sunflower plants out of nowhere have started to die. One has black spots on the back, no signs of powdery mildew or other mildew. Now second one is starting to die, all in a grow bag. So I don't know what it is. It's hard to diagnose that way. Sunflowers can get a fungus issue, but you usually see it progress up the leaf, and it's a slow kill of the leaves, and you can spray for that. If it's in a container, the plants are big, they could be just really hot, running out of water, and then they're just dying off. It's really hard to say without kind of seeing a picture. All you can really do in that case is stay steady with the water, give them the water soluble fertilizer. But it's hard to figure out. From how you wrote it, I'm kind of feeling like maybe they're dying pretty big at once. If you're talking about a progression of problems on the leaves, they do get fungal issues, and you can spray for that. Synganic is a good word. And I mostly don't like, my concern is that brand new gardeners, and organic gardening is not expensive if you make your own compost and you do it the traditional way. But if you get the fear of chemicals are bad and you're buying everything that has a stamp on it at big box stores, it's really expensive to garden that way, and it's not always necessary. Organic gardening of practicing taking leaves and grass and using resources from your home and your community, that's what you need. You need that organic matter in the soil. As for select fertilizers and bag stuff and marketed stuff, you don't necessarily need that, or you don't need a lot of it. David, I saw your question, and remember, make sure you put question in front so I see it. I live in Delaware, not far from you. I was wondering what type of onions work best in our zone. So onions for our area, I'm in Maryland Zone 7. I usually start my onions by seed indoors in January or February, let them grow about 8 weeks, put them outside. I don't know, to be honest with you. I mix them up just to see what will grow. The best way to do it, onions, you have short day, intermediate day, and long day onions. They're onion zones, not like gardening zones, but onion zones. So if you look up on the web and just say, what are the best onions for my area, usually you can find a list. We're kind of in an intermediate area, so, but all of them kind of work. As you go up further north, you get to long day, and then as you go down south, you get to short day. Onions bulb up based on the amount of sunlight you get throughout, late spring and through the summer. I wish I had a better answer for you. I really struggle with wild amaranth, pokeweed, pingrass, even with cardboard and mulch. Is weed barrier bad? Let me just try and figure that. So weed barrier, it is bad because it doesn't really work. Well, there's two kinds. There's the weed barrier you put down and then people mulch over it. Well, the seeds are just going to get on top of that and grow through it. If you're talking about a weed barrier that stays on the surface, like this silage tarps or the black plastic that farmers use and that you can buy, and you just put that down and then you put your plants in holes or around it or something, that does work. But if you put down a weed barrier and then you put anything on top of it, those weed seeds will just grow down through that weed barrier. Weed barrier is usually porous to let water in and stuff like that, and the root systems just grow through that. So it doesn't do anything for, future weeds. If you're going to use the barrier, it's really leaving black plastic on top. It's tough. I mean, weeds are always an ongoing issue. What is doing best in your garden this year, and what is struggling? My best is beets, and the worst is actually tomatoes. Usually my tomatoes are bulletproof, but very slow this year. So a lot of people's plants this year have gotten messed up because our weather has just kind of been crazy. Tons of rain in some areas. Now we have the high heat. I am having trouble getting my squash going, so I'm replanting, just like today's theme. I'm pulling out those beat up plants. It's only June 26th. I can plant squash, zucchini now. I can plant them again towards the end of July and maybe even the middle of August, and I'll still get production. So I'm yanking those out and I'm replanting. Everything else is doing pretty good. I'm able to stay up on the watering. I have my shade cloth up. I have mulching down, trying to beat the heat. But it's been a weird year for people with, stuff that used to grow well for them. They're struggling a little bit. My peppers took a while to really take off. And that's where I use the water-soluble synthetic fertilizers. hit them with a 1, 2, 3, 4 quick pour of them. Lots of nutrients. They're off and running, and now they're doing great. And I'm not actually fertilizing them anymore. But if they need a boost mid-July, I will hit them with my organic AgroThrive water-soluble fertilizer. Let's see. I got to catch up here a second. Hang on. And again, this is the public garden grounds, the Q&A that I do every second and fourth Thursday at 11 a.m. If you do like this format, I have perk memberships. You'll see people with circles and stars and different colors. They're all perk members. You can join that for $3.99 a month on the YouTube channel. Just find the join button. For some reason, the join button can be hard to find on different, if it's on your phone or an iPad or desktop, sometimes it varies. But the join button is there, and that's how you do join. And I do this format 5 times in the private perk memberships a month. All right, trying to find out where I left off here. And if I've missed your question, please put it back out there. Janet, what type of perennial can be grown in ceramic pots due to having only one drainage hole? So as long as it has drainage, all containers need drainage, or the water's going to fill up the container, fill up the air pockets, and the roots are going to die off. It's not so much a ceramic pot or only one drainage hole. That's going to work. What you can grow in there is really based on how much material is in a pot. So I only know how to talk about it in the form of gallons, but like a 5-gallon container can grow 1 pepper plant, 10-gallon, 2 or 3 pepper plants. I used to recommend growing tomatoes in like 10-gallon containers. I do recommend 20 gallons. The point being is that your bigger plants for vegetables fill that soil up really quickly, and they take the water and nutrients out fast. If you're doing perennial flowers, I mean, it's going to vary too. It depends on how big the plant gets come now and really July, and how big of a root system it has. So it really depends on that. Nikki, how large do herbs such as peppermint, oregano, thyme have to be before you can start harvesting them? You can harvest them anytime, no pun intended. You know, they're all going to have large green leaves. The peppermint I've been able to harvest for the last month. Oregano I harvested and dried 4 weeks ago. It's really up to you. If it looks green, if the leaves are there, you can really take it anytime that you want. If you're just starting a small plant, of course you want it to get to a good size so that as you're removing leaves, you're leaving enough behind for it to do its photosynthesis and continue to grow. But you can, if you're asking, you know, when is it ready to use, you can use the leaves anytime theoretically. Karen, does Captain Jack's dead bug dust take care of Colorado potato beetles, or is there something better? So it does. And again, you can grab a potato beetle, put it in a jar, sprinkle some Captain Jack's and see if it works. Captain Jack's is good. 7 Dust is great. One's organic, one's not. So the 7 Dust is effective. For sure. Like I haven't found, except for squash bugs. Like squash bugs are really hard to kill off with anything. If you are interested in creating cardboard tubes, coiled cardboard, and catching your squash bugs, I have been, you know, probably at 20 or 25 caught in these traps. I just did a video on it. You'll see it on my YouTube channel. These tubes are catching the squash bugs. They crawl into there. They hang out in there. I grab the tube, you know, every day or every other day, bang it out, and I'm just collecting squash bugs and killing them. What's the cutoff line for peppers that are still very small, less than an inch? Let me read it again. What's the cutoff line for peppers that are still very small, less than an inch? The peppers may have been stunted by, you know, May, full 40 degrees, temperatures in Chicago. So if I understand your question, and this has happened to a lot of people, cold temps, rain, if the plants are small, less than an inch, and they're in the ground or however they're growing, hit them with a water-soluble fertilizer. The warmth of the soil is coming now. So let me just check here. Hold on. The soil is warmed up nicely, so they can take off. To answer your question, if you have like small peppers on there right now, remove them, as I've been saying for some other questions. But they do have to get in the ground. If they're in the ground, the warmth is here, they should speed up, they should grow, and you should get production. If you're thinking of restarting pepper seeds, it's kind of late to restart, but if they've already grown, they're ready to take off. What edibles do you recommend for a low ground cover in a pollinator garden? We have a large bare area in front of our house that we don't know what to do with. Let me just think about that. So I use strawberry plants as a ground cover. That's great. They're not going to really produce now, but they could establish if you can find them somewhere. You can also use bush beans. Bush green beans grow really well. You can plant them around and they'll fall and flop over, but you'll get plenty of green beans. I'm trying to think of things that'll stay about 12 inches or smaller. I don't know, maybe more will come to me, but that's a great question for everybody that's on the chat now. Help out with low ground cover for a pollinator garden. I'm glad you got the pH in order, Derek. So that just makes me think too. If you're starting a garden and you've got grass and weeds and stuff growing, you probably don't have to check the pH. But if you have a garden that begins to struggle, or it's going into an area where plants are struggling, definitely check the pH, because that can be a quick fix to just kind of get things to the right pH value. And usually that's like between 5.5 and 7. Most plants grow within that. But the pH helps plants regulate how they pull in nutrients, so you do want to get that taken care of. So, I mean, for direct seeding and, real quick, where are we at? 11:26. All right, we have time. I'll probably stay until about 11:45. So the short version is warm soil, warm days, the sun coming, beating up, warming up the soil. Just about anything you direct seed now that's a summer crop, including tomatoes, will germinate quickly, grow, and you may even get production out of tomatoes. Peppers, it's a little bit late. Eggplant, it's a little bit late. Tomatillo, squash, zucchini, winter squash, pumpkin, watermelon, cantaloupe, you can direct seed now. Sometimes we spend too much time, I think, trying to grow transplants and thinking that's the way to go, when you can just direct seed. If you are direct seeding, the only thing you want to do is water them every other day. The sun can really dry out that top 2 inches. What is that? 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 2-3 inches very quickly. And that could damage the sprouting plants because they dry out too quickly. Just keep them watered for a good 14 days, 10-14 days after germination. They'll establish and you're good to go. And I do just want to reiterate, if you have plants that are really struggling and you tried to fix them, you mulched them, maybe you put shade cloth out, you hit them with the water soluble, and they're just not thriving and taking off, don't be afraid to yank them out and to replant, especially the plant types that I was just talking about. You can't protect against hail, unfortunately. You could put up, shade cloth and coverings and stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, the hail's just coming down hard and pounding your plants. Aside from covering them, there isn't much. My spaghetti squash plant is almost dead, but has a number of full-size fruits, which have just started turning yellow. Can I leave them on the vine to continue ripening? You can leave them on the vine. If it's really hot, it could impact how they're doing, but you can pick them and just let them finish in the house. Depending on their size, they're going to just ripen with what's the fruit itself. They're not going to be getting anything from the plant. Unless your plant is like, when you say dying, I'm thinking brown and just not helping out. But if the plant still has greenery and you still think the squash is getting moisture and some nutrients from the vine and leaves, then leave it on there. If the vine and leaves are just beyond hope, you can pick them and put them on your counter. Question, this is the first time I'm growing sugar baby watermelons in a trellis. How often should I fertilize them? That varies a little bit depending on how well your soil's set up, but if it's decent soil, you put in organic matter. I set it up with, with compost, some organic granular, water soluble at planting, and mix it all up and get them growing. If they look like they're struggling, I go ahead and hit them with a water soluble fertilizer now. Get them on track. But if they're green and growing nicely, maybe mid-July when they're starting to produce, I'll hit them again with the water soluble fertilizer. I may put some compost around them, but usually we over fertilize. So if you feel like the soil was pretty good, you fed them when you set it up, maybe gave them some water soluble to get them growing, or they looked like they were struggling, I just do it maybe one more time, middle of growth when they're producing, and then I keep an eye on them. For your watermelon, just as a side note, the biggest issue is going to be when the powdery mildew and stuff rolls in. So you do want to have a spray routine set up to help them with that. Got to find where I left off. And if I've missed your question, please put it back out there. If you want to do a super chat, I will answer that question with priority. We'll stay on for at least another 10 minutes, or I'll stay on for at least another 10 minutes. Karen, a perk member, we've had some terrible winds that blew my onion tops over. Do they keep growing that way? As long as the onion tops are green, they can bend. I mean, they're hollow. So if they get knocked over, they're not going to fix themselves. You can let them sit there. As long as they're green, they're pulling in nutrients and stuff like that. I want to welcome Bob Ellison to perk members. I believe you just joined. If somebody has a dark blue star or blue circle, they're brand new perk members. So I did cover this, MK, as I was talking, so maybe you already had the answer. But squash, cucumber, zucchini, winter squash, pumpkins, cantaloupe, okra, you can even do Swiss chard. Beets are great to put in now. A lot of people think beets are cool weather crops. You can put them in. Purple top turnips. There's a lot that you can actually direct sow. I do use cold pressed neem oil for cabbage worms. Neem oil should be cold pressed. The stuff you buy in the store, usually bottom left corner, it says hydrophobic extract. That's garbage for chewing insects. It's just an oil at that point. It's not really neem oil anymore. You want the cold pressed because it has a chemical compound called azadirachtin in it. You spray your plant, the worms eat that, shuts down their digestive system, messes them up in some way, they die off. But if you're using neem oil, you definitely want cold pressed neem oil. I do sell that at my seed shop too, by the way. therustedgarden.com. Let me put that in there now. So at my seed shop, I have all kinds of different oils, organic oils, peppermint oil, rosemary oil, and that's at therustedgarden.com. So I also sell tomato and pepper seeds there, $1.75 a pack. All other seeds are $1.50. I sell fabric containers, stuff that you need for seed starting, and the prices I think are pretty reasonable. I can't compete with Amazon because I'm just one guy, but they're pretty, cheap. And especially we made the decision to keep the vegetable seeds, in the dollar range because I really just want people to grow, and I like teaching. How to remove squash bugs other than picking the eggs and adults off. Hand vacuum, bug dust. So let's go backwards. My traps are working. The cylinders of cardboard, and check out the video I just did, I think 2 videos ago on my channel. Squash bugs are going in there. I bang them out. I actually just grab them and squash them and get rid of them. So that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, you're looking for the orange eggs on your leaves, and I pinch them off or rub them off. You can put tape on there, pull them off. I don't do the hand vacuum. That's just an extra step for me. I just get in there and look. The other cool trick for squash bugs is they don't like water. So if you flood the base of your zucchini plant when you're watering and you just wait a few minutes, you're going to see them crawl up and go for higher ground. And then you can grab them and get rid of them. Janet, with all the heat wave happening, how long do you recommend to keep 40% shade cloth over the tomatoes, peppers, and cucumber plants? So you have 40%, so that's a little bit less. I've used 50, I've used 70. You can theoretically keep that up for the whole summer if you're in a place that gets really hot. When the temperatures are staying around in the 80s, you don't necessarily need the shade cloth, but if it's peaking up there, it can be an issue. Also with shade cloth, you want to use mulch and you want to water pretty regularly. You don't have to deep water, but you keep the mulch wet, you keep the soil cooler. Plants stop producing a lot of times because the root systems get too hot and they get this message that, they got to go into survival mode. So plants may drop flowers, won't produce flowers, just don't do well. But you can leave 40% shade cloth up for a season, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts on using duct tape wrapped around the base of squash zucchini plants? Even tomorrow, the tape would be sticky side out to catch approaching insect pests. It would have to be really sticky, and it will catch some good insects. Theoretically, sticky traps or something would be good, but you're going to catch a lot of stuff on there. I'm not sure the duct tape would be sticky enough. All right, I just lost where I was in the chat. So Dusty, I could be wrong, says if onion necks get kinked, they won't grow any further. I don't know if I would agree with that. The greenery might get messed up, but it still should be bringing in energy as long as the break didn't mess up the flow of, what the plant does. But I could be wrong, Question. Oh, wait, we did that one. All right, so here I am. Duct tape we got. Is anyone suffering with... Yeah, I have lantern flies, and that's where I'm using 7 spray. Like I tried all the organic ways last year, soaps and oils and all that, and I had thousands. So I'm using a spray on really my muscadines. They're all over my grapes and muscadines. So I've been hitting them with the spray early on when they were small nymphs. They're at the stage now where they're kind of black with white dots. Pretty soon they'll, transform into the adult lanternfly. But they're a problem, so I'm using the heavier stuff on them. And just so you know, like I might use the 7 on the muscadines, but I'm not going and spraying the rest of my crops. Like every crop I manage differently. Like anything that's a leafy green, I don't want any of the synthetic chemicals on there. I don't even like putting the organic chemicals on there because they're hard to wash off. So my leafy greens, I try and leave alone and, just eat around the pest damage. Things that can be washed easily, I might use a stronger synthetic. Stuff that I might want to pick off the plants, like cherry tomatoes, I'll use baking soda spray, for my antifungal. But for me, I use different things. Even tomato, okay. Just going back to the question with the duct tape. Question, my pole beans seem to be at a standstill. Should I replant them? Yes, good example for what I talked about today. I forgot about the beans. So beans can kind of get beat up. They probably will take off. So there's nothing wrong with hitting those beans with a water soluble. Even though they can fix their own nitrogen and manage it, hit them with water soluble and maybe put 2 or 3 bean plants close to those. Worst case is they take off and they're okay, and now you have too many bean plants, you have to thin them out. But definitely beans, direct seed bush beans, direct seed pole beans, direct seed cowpeas, which are beans, any kind of legume will grow really well now. I mean, maybe some will, but most of them will grow really well. And if you have your bush beans are producing and they're just about done, get some more in the ground. Just keep the seeding going and experiment. Like you might want to test out, maybe your plants are doing great. Still direct seed now and time how quickly they take to germinate, grow, if you can keep them growing, see how long they take to harvest. Because you can then plan out, I can put in bush beans now, I can put in zucchini now, it'll be ready July 21st. But because my area stays warm until late September, I can put in zucchini April 15th. They're going to be ready. As it begins to cool, the plants might grow much more slowly. But if you experiment, you can really figure out like transplants are great in the beginning, to get an early jump in the season. But once it's warm, we can direct seed much more often than we think and continue with harvests. Growing lots of kale and Swiss chard, but some things eating the leaves. I have them netted, but maybe I have to spray more. What techniques do you recommend? So in this case, it's really important to find out what it might be. If it's snails and slugs, they can crawl in underneath, and they're probably hiding in there anyway. So I use slug baits for that. And iron phosphate, sulfur baits, just look online. Active ingredient, iron phosphate, or active ingredient, sulfur. They are baited, you just sprinkle them around, they wipe out the snails and slugs. If it's a chewing insect like a worm, you kind of want to find that. If you're netted and they're already chewing it, they're already in there. So you could probably remove the netting unless you want to protect the kale, from that white butterfly that flies around and lays the green cabbage looper. You basically have to spray. And, I don't want to recommend anything except first step, trying to identify what it is. And then you come up with the solution. Question, when or if fertilize container veggies during a heat wave, 87 to 95 degrees? You can, and it's not going to hurt them. You don't want to be pouring water on the plants mid-day because it's really hot, especially on a sunny day. If it's cloudy, it doesn't matter what you do. But you can feed them, and I would just water in the base of the plant with the water-soluble fertilizer, and they'll be good to go. Karen, is it safe to use 7 on my potatoes that are right besides my blueberry bushes? So that's when it becomes like a choice. Like, I'm okay with it. It is a chemical. You don't want that dust floating onto the blueberries. So if I thought organic or synthetic chemicals were floating onto something that I'm picking and eating, I wouldn't do it. If that's what you're talking about, safe, Some people don't want to use a synthetic chemical on their potatoes because they feel it seeps into the ground, impacts the potatoes. That may or may not be true. That's going to really be up to you. If that kind of answers your question. I'm not growing anything now in wicking buckets. I used to do that, but now that I have more space, I tend to grow in the ground or larger containers. Here we go. Just got to find out where we're at. Going to be finishing up in about 5 minutes. And again, this is the public Q&A. Every second, fourth Thursday, 11 a.m. I do this. And we usually talk about a light subject. If you're interested and like this format, $3.99 a month, you become a perk member. And I do this format about 5 times a month for an hour. All right. Janie, thanks for the seed comment from my shop. Why would several 4-inch squash suddenly rot? All the rain last week. It's a lack of pollination, most likely. So squash, zucchini, you have the female flower, which has a little baby squash under it. That will grow, but if it's not pollinated, the tip browns and it dies off, and it's from lack of pollination. So it looks like it's doing great, and then it gets to a couple inches, and then it rots and dies off. It's just not viable. Like, you can pick the zucchini when they're small and eat them, but because it didn't get pollinated, it's not going to produce seed, so the plant doesn't want it, and they just die off. That's the whole goal of plants, actually, is to reproduce, so to create the seeds. My dwarf tomato plant has one flower. All the bottom leaves died, but the top leaves are growing new leaves. I'm using your baking soda remedy. So far, so good. But no other flowers are growing. Why? So I don't know. Dwarf tomatoes, they could have had a fungus, could have died off, and you've hit it with the baking soda spray. I mean, it may have just got something that killed it off. And, you know, dwarf tomato plants, you can reseed and grow now, but they should be, you know, to a good size and lots of flowers at this point. So I'm not sure what's happening. So orange peel powder, I don't know if that works against pests. You might hear scratching at the door. My dog is knocking to come in, but we'll let her sit there so I can finish up. Orange oil works really well on killing out ants. So orange peel powder could work. Yeah, if the duct tape is really sticky, that could work. It's always worth experimenting. Can beets be planted between rows of tomatoes at this time? Yeah, as long as sun's getting to them, you can plant the beets in there for sure. All right, we're going to finish up. See if any last questions. I lost 6 pepper plants in pots and in the ground. They started to rot at the base of the stem. I think it's due to unfinished compost, which I added to the base. No, but sometimes, you know, stuff that is still kind of breaking down can heat up. It can damage plants. Maybe it's probably sounds more like a fungal issue got in there, but, you know, it's hard to tell. But 6 plants planted the same way, it sounds like something was going on with how you prepared them. I don't think it was your fault, but something could have just been brought in that impacted them that you had no idea about. So green worms eating the leaves of your raspberries. You could do a neem oil spray. I have plenty of videos on that. You could put down insect dust, spinosad, or Captain Jack's. However, if the raspberries are ready to harvest, that's what makes it hard. Like, I don't want any kind of dust on there, so it's kind of difficult. Hand picking, trying to find them and removing them, because I wouldn't want the berries sprayed with stuff. It's probably the only way to go. If you can remove a lot of them, you may have good insects come in and eat them. Predator wasps will take worms off your plants, but it's a tough call. It's too hot now for broccoli, so if it's flowering, it's not going to form. Broccoli needs to be at cool temperatures to form a nice head. Once it gets warm, that crown goes to flower to produce seed. So it's time to remove the broccoli. All right, we are at time. Thank you guys so much. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. I sell tomato and pepper seeds there for $1.75. All of their seeds are $1.50. I have seed starting supplies, fabric pots, organic oils, peppermint oil, rosemary oil, neem oil there. Appreciate your support. And if you like this format, please check out perk memberships on my channel. They are $3.99 a month, and I do this format 5 times a month. All right, you guys beat the heat. I will see